I think it's important for everyone to get some form of health care, so to offer a basic plan for everybody I think is important. It's just a question of whether we're going to raise taxes.
It's the New England election that's having an impact all around the country.
You just heard from Republican Scott Brown, who won the U.S. Senate seat in Massachusetts that was held for decades by Ted Kennedy. With health care reform still up for debate, a hot-button issue before Congress, the question is, what is next in that health care debate?
24-Hour News 8's Tony Tagliavia looks at the impact here in West Michigan.
The reform being pushed in Washington promises to put more Americans into health care coverage and out of emergency rooms for routine care. More coverage is something Mickey Benz of St. Mary's Healthcare says her organization supports.
That is the principle that guides us as we do our advocacy functions, and that's what we're watching most carefully.
But Gleaves Whitney, who heads Grand Valley State University's Hauenstein Center for Presidential Studies, says there is evidence some Massachusetts independents and even some Democrats intended to send a message to Washington with their votes Tuesday.
The focus groups reveal that voters in Massachusetts are very concerned about making sure their jobs first, and then we'll worry about health care.
If health care reform does move forward, GVSU's Whitney says to, not surprisingly, look for changes.
The most striking fact about health care in the United States right now is that more than 80% of people are happy with the health care they have. The Senate is going to have to get rid of its tenure, and it's going to have to acknowledge that most people do not want an entire overhaul of American health care.
He says if Democrats try to ram through the existing reform plan, they will pay at the polls in November.
The bluest of the blue states could take Ted Kennedy's seat that he occupied for all of those years, Ted Kennedy, whose legacy was going to be health care, and they could send somebody who explicitly said, if I go to Washington, I will drive a stake into the heart of Obamacare.
Whitney says that should be a signal to all politicians perceived as part of the establishment, including Republicans. But he says it should be heard by Democrats in particular. Tony Tagliavia, 24-Hour News 8.
Grand Valley's Hauenstein Center is hosting several events tied to the potential changes in health care involving a debate featuring members of national organizations. It starts a week from tomorrow. Details are at woodtv.com.